and I was suspended from the campaign and, as you said, unceremoniously fired. This was done very swiftly. I was immediately terminated. My profile was deleted from the organization's website. My email account was terminated. My UN grounds pass was revoked. And I think that speaks to the level of silencing and isolation that they were trying to inflict upon me due to talking about this issue.
Hello and welcome to Dawn English. We've been looking at the war in Gaza over the last 7 months, the sheer barbarity and mass murder we've witnessed unfold in front of our screens, on social media. Now, many of the people who have tried to question, for example, the Western support of Israel have faced backlash in organizations and universities. Professors have been sacked. Across organizations, there's a lot of evidence that people have faced retribution. Joining me on today's program is a guest from Britain. His name is Ousman Noor. Ousman, thank you for taking the time to join us. Let me briefly introduce you to our audiences. So you, as I said, you are from Britain. You trained in law at SOAS in London. You studied social anthropology at Oxford. You worked as a barrister, as a human rights barrister in London for many years, specializing in detention law and in refugees. You spent last 3 years in Switzerland working for an organization called Stop Killer Robots. But that stint ended unceremoniously when you were fired for tweeting on Gaza. And you are currently based in Amman. You've started a new initiative called the Civilian Agenda. You're outspoken about peace initiatives against war, what's happening in Gaza. I want to start by asking you, what was that episode in Switzerland? You were a campaigner, and then what did you do that your organization sacked you at a short notice?
Right. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me on the show. I was sent to the New York General Assembly in order to campaign in favor of a resolution on autonomous weapon systems. The work that I was doing for Stop Killer Robots was to achieve a new treaty for this issue of autonomous weapon systems. This is systems that use artificial intelligence to kill people. And so my job was to advocate in favor for that and engage with the diplomatic community around the United Nations. I was sent there between the 7th and the 14th of October. And as we know, that's when the violence erupted in Israel and Palestine. There was a dark aura around the work that we were doing when we arrived, because there was a sense of foreboding about what Israel was about to do. Promises had been made to turn Gaza into a wasteland, and Benjamin Netanyahu had cut off the gas, the water, and electricity. I asked my own colleagues at that time for us to advocate in favor of a humanitarian corridor. I was told by my boss to not email our campaign because this was, according to him, a touchy subject. So I decided in my own personal capacity through my own Twitter account to publish a call for colleagues and those friends and family to speak out in favor of the ethnic cleansing that had already begun at that point. Word got around that I had delivered this tweet. I'm here at the United Nations in New York, where I have been participating in the first committee meeting on disarmament and international security. And I was suspended from the campaign and, as you said, unceremoniously fired. This was done very swiftly. I was immediately terminated. My profile was deleted from the organization's website. My email account was terminated. My UN grounds pass was revoked. And I think that speaks to the level of silencing and isolation that they were trying to inflict upon me due to talking about this issue.
You are taking legal action. You are basically saying that you were dismissed unfairly. Are you saying that the organization was avoiding to speak on what is happening in Gaza? It was trying to avoid criticizing Israel?
Basically, yes. The issue of Israel is an extremely sensitive topic to Western states. And the idea of speaking out against ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people, which, as we know, has been going on for decades, was effectively a taboo topic. And so what happened is when I made my tweet, those colleagues that I had been working for were asking, who does he think he is? How dare he speak out in favor of the Palestinians? And so the effort to silence me was, I believe, in order to try to appease those Western states so that they could maintain those types of relationships. But it is, I think it speaks very much to the double standards and hypocrisy, because all I was asking for was the international rules to apply.
Yes, and we've seen this time and again the discrimination where moral standards apply and where they don't. I was looking at the website of Stop Killer Robots campaign, and I noticed two statements on Gaza. One issued on March 4th and the other one on 1st of December, where they talk about Israel ostensibly using robot dogs for surveillance. They also talk about Hapsora, which is something that the Israeli army uses. It's an automated targeting system. It seems to me that they haven't really avoided. Maybe they haven't framed the situation in the way many of us would like. But they have addressed what is going on in Gaza, haven't they?
I would say not really. The work that we do is to stop killer robots. We have, for the last 10 years, been advocating against the use of autonomous weapon systems. When we look at the weapons that are out there, a great deal of them are Israeli systems, and they've been using them for years and developing them for years and selling them for years. They don't talk about ethnic cleansing. They don't talk about genocide. They don't even call for a ceasefire. What they do is very carefully speak about concerns that they have around these weapon systems, but actually, probably more importantly, they deny that the systems that are being used are even autonomous weapon systems. And that is actually very problematic.
So they talk about digital dehumanization. And I understand that the Stop Killer Robots campaign is supported by Human Rights Watch, by Amnesty International. There's this, the anti-war campaigners are supporting them. But what you seem to be suggesting is that there is this sort of discrimination in the international NGO sector.
Yes, the point is that certain communities are treated in a different way than other communities. When we, for example, look at Russia's invasion in Ukraine, there was an immediate and very powerful and compelling backlash from Western states, huge levels of support, as it should be for Ukrainians. That's the type of response that perhaps should take place when international law is breached. This has been going on for decades in Palestine. We could count the number of different rules of international law that are being breached. Total silence. And right now, we are seeing the crime of all crimes being committed.
So based on your knowledge and your understanding of the use of artificial intelligence in warfare, what is it that Israel is employing?
To talk about autonomous weapon systems, these are systems that use sensors to capture data from the external environment. So we can have auditory sensors, visual sensors, thermal sensors. They take in data. That data will be processed through artificial intelligence. And the data will also be combined with data from other sources such as WhatsApp, from GPS, from data collected from historical records from Facebook. And then the system will make a recommendation to kill. And that recommendation is a machine recommendation. The recommendation gets sent to an operator who is distant from where the force is going to be executed. So they're dislocated, disempowered from the actual consequences of the attack. And they will rely on that recommendation to execute force. And we have seen from the reports coming out that the recommendation is even suggesting entire buildings to be attacked on the premise that someone in there may or may not be Hamas. There may be 20 or 30 or 40 other people in there, but someone in there may or may not be Hamas based on the artificial intelligence recommendation, and the entire building is blown up. So this is how the new generation of warfare is functioning. That's the artificial intelligence recommendation systems that you mentioned, the Hapsora and the Lavender systems. But we're also seeing the type of robotic implementation of the force itself. So we have loitering munitions. So you think about sort of quadcopters with assault rifles that are actually hovering around different parts that then implement the kill. We see dogs with rifles mounted on their back that are also capable of the kill. So why are they doing this? What's the point of that? Well, from a purely clinical military perspective, The advantage to Israel is they can send in machines instead of their own soldiers, their own people. So the way I think about it is mechanical slaughter. It's not that different to how we kill animals. We have entire factories, or where there are conveyor belts.
I wonder if there's a parallel with the drone warfare Pakistan experienced during the so-called war on terror. American drones flying from bases in Afghanistan, killing people in tribal areas. Would you say that is also automated warfare? I mean, I guess there was no use of AI, but somebody sitting somewhere in Nevada was operating the drone, right?
Exactly. And it is something for Pakistani audiences to know that the very first country to call for a prohibition, an international prohibition on these types of systems was Pakistan. Pakistan has been leading the call for more than a decade on this issue of autonomous weapon systems. And the reason for that is Pakistan's experience of this type of drone warfare technology. Now, you are right. The drone warfare technology that Pakistan experienced wasn't to the same sophistication as we are seeing today, but it very much had the same types of concerns. You had people, as you said, sitting in Nevada who were not really engaging with the consequences of their attack. They saw on a screen some floating kind of pixels, and they decided to execute. And so I think that drone warfare that Pakistan experienced was the precursor to what we are now seeing, and probably why Pakistan has been leading the call internationally for a decade to get these weapon systems prohibited.
Now, you've said previously that the Palestinians are being used as guinea pigs by the Israeli war machinery. And it's like a testing ground. It's like a lab. Gaza is a lab for them. Are they selling these weapons to other countries?
The number one importer of Israeli weapons is India. India, interestingly, several years ago, was also an advocate for new international law against these weapon systems. They aligned themselves with the non-aligned movement. The entire non-aligned movement has been against these weapon systems. And around 4 years ago, that policy changed. Under the current Modi government, India basically did a 180 on its position on autonomous weapon systems. And that is precisely because they are importing these weapon systems from Israel, are testing these weapon systems. And we can see already in Kashmir are actually deploying these weapon systems. And why are they doing that? They think that there is some military advantage for them to do that. I think it is extremely dangerous, extremely short-sighted, because once these weapon systems are out there, no one's going to have a monopoly on them, whether they like it or not. If these weapon systems are out there, they're going to be available to everyone, including individuals, including non-state actors, including criminals. And so we need to put a lid on this, agree to new international law, because otherwise it's a security threat, not just for the region there, but also for the whole world.
Over the last 7 months that we've been covering the situation in Gaza on our TV show, we've often, amongst, with my colleagues, we've often asked ourselves and asked our guests, how much is enough? We started with 1,000 Palestinians killed, then it was 10,000, then 20,000, 30,000. Who knows? It may even be more than 40, 50,000. And I've often wondered how much is enough for Western politicians to really say that this is enough. The protests that you refer to on university campuses and the pushback from the public, the civil society, do you think it will be enough to focus minds for politicians and the military-industrial complex?
Let me tell you something. I was a refugee lawyer for 9 years in London. I represented people from over 60 different states in conflict areas all over the world. Politicians don't have a number for how much is enough. They could read a report, for example, from Afghanistan or for Iraq. 1 million people were killed in Iraq. That wasn't enough. I don't think they have a figure. The only time that politicians change is when people demand it and take action to fight the power and demonstrate that their power is greater than theirs. I don't think they have a concept of figures in terms of death. 100 million might be enough. It's only. I think they only change course when there is a political resistance to it.
So maybe we're not as helpless as we sometimes feel. Thank you so much, Ousman Noor, for joining us on Dawn English.